Hello, welcome back to Healing Oracle. I'm Robert J. Morris, and this is your source for maintaining and restoring health and preventative measures against illness. In today's installment, Mary will talk to us about the importance of the hormone known as vitamin D3, what to look for, dosage misconceptions, and much more on the subject. For a transcript and links to sources, please check the description below. Now, here's Mary.
I'd like to talk about vitamin D today. Vitamin D has been very underestimated and could actually not only extend your life but save your life. However, not if you're to follow the misguided information we see regurgitated many times deriving from the RDA Guidelines. I first started to write about vitamin D, it was about 5 years ago. That was when 400 IU was considered the maximum safe dose. And the medical mafia raged against researchers like me who clearly identified beyond reasonable doubt that people required significantly more vitamin D3. Not only that, but when using high doses of D3, the result often proved nothing short of miraculous in treating and curing a wide variety of health conditions. But let's forward to today. It's only now, years later, and for many, unfortunately, just a little too late, that the so-called medical establishment has changed their guidelines. Many people are seeing this when visiting their own local MD or doctor, whom are recommending you take doses in excess of 400 IU. Now, isn't that strange from just 5 years ago? But there's a lot of controversy surrounding the question of how much to take. The controversy continues, and I just don't know when this is going to end. Measuring vitamin D3. This can only be done by taking a simple blood test, and the blood test needs to go for analysis. Everyone absorbs vitamin D differently, but what matters is how much vitamin D we have disposable, not how much vitamin D we actually take. So, it's time to take control over your own health and find out how much disposable vitamin D you have. I actually advise everyone to ask the doctor, MD, to order a 25 hydroxy vitamin D test to see how much usable vitamin D you have in your blood system. Many doctors mistakenly aim for vitamin D levels in the 20 to 30 nanogram per milliliter, that's NG range. Vitamin D experts believe and conclude that our bodies need up to 90% more of that recommendation in order to prevent sickness and disease, and I 100% agree with this. These days, maybe most doctors would consider 40 nanograms normal and perfectly safe, but you can actually go much higher without danger. Have you ever known anyone to have toxicity from sun exposure? I think not. So let's think about this. The sun provides a natural source of vitamin D without toxicity. Now, is it making sense now? It should be. There's a doctor by the name of Lucinda Messner, a naturopathic doctor who was interviewed, stated there's no danger of vitamin D toxicity in an adult until 160 nanogram level. And such a high level is nearly unheard of. Actually, I've never heard of it myself. Anyway, she tested vitamin D levels in thousands of patients and found that 160 plus level in only one patient, surprisingly enough. Nearly everyone she ever tested was in the 10s, 20s or 30s. She rarely encounters anyone over 40, and people with that level are nearly always taking 1,000 IU minimum to supplement. She believes cancer patients and should aim for vitamin D blood level of 90 to 100 milligrams. In short, virtually no one is anywhere near a toxic level of vitamin D. On the contrary, nearly all of us are severely deficient, so that's what we need to think about. Dr. Messner is an author of a book called Powerful Medicine, Shedding Light on Worldwide Health Crisis. You can check her out and her detailed recommendations for vitamin D supplementation for cancer patients, although the book was written in 2003 and she says it's in need of updating. Dr. Mesner advises if you have cancer or heart disease, you want to be in the therapeutic 70 to 100 nanogram range. I agree with her in principle, but I would even add higher doses of vitamin D, and I've seen the advantages of this time and time again. So what can vitamin D do for you? Practically everything. Vitamin D drastically decreases your risk of serious illness, including but not limited to autoimmune disease, heart disease, cancer and diabetes, just to name a few. It also deals with the real blow of chronic inflammation, which is implicated in nearly every chronic disease. And if that weren't enough, vitamin D also improves muscle function. It keeps your immune system healthy, it balances your insulin and phosphorus levels, and helps you absorb calcium, thereby keeping your bones strong and preventing fractures. Now, we've all heard the myth of vitamin D toxicity. Why do some say that vitamin D could harm you? Let's have a look at this. In the 1930s, European countries started to fortify foods with vitamin D, which was then believed to be the miracle vitamin. But 20 years later, when British children had too much calcium in their blood, doctors mistakenly blamed vitamin D without looking deeper. During the 1980s, doctors in India treated tuberculosis patients with 3,800 IU of vitamin D daily for 3 months. Their patients developed dangerously high levels of calcium. So what did they do? They just blamed the vitamin D. This all led the US government to declare that 1,000 IU of vitamin D daily could be toxic. But they forgot that excessively high calcium levels are common in tuberculosis patients. Perhaps it wasn't vitamin D's fault after all. I don't think there was any perhaps about it. Finally, in 1999, Dr. Reinhold Veith, a University of Toronto researcher, conducted a study showing that 10,000 IU of vitamin D daily appeared safe. Whilst that may sound high, it's what you'd get if sat in a bathing suit in July for just 15 minutes without sunscreen. Has this ever been a problem? Let's think about this. Sitting in the sun for 15 minutes in a swimsuit, just 15 minutes? I don't think so. Common sense should prevail here. Today, the Institute of Medicine recommends 600 IU daily for healthy bones. Dr. Heaney of the University of Omaha and Michael Hollick, Boston Medical Center, recommends 1 to 3,000 IU daily. The Endocrine Society says infants need 400 to 1,000 IU. Children and teens need 600 to 1,000 IU. And adults 1,500 to 2,000 IU. Some studies contradict this good news. To complicate matters, a recent study published in the